Hey everybody, I've got a behind the scenes video coming up, but I just wanted to have a quick chat with you before we got to that. Whenever I put a video out that a work project video that looks like it's taking longer than it should have done or longer than I'd like, I always get two kinds of comments on it. One is, oh my God, how can anybody be paying you your day rate when the job's taking so long? And the other one is, oh my God, how can you be making any money out of this? The job's taking so long. The reality, of course, is that it falls fairly squarely between those two stools. Some jobs make more money than others, and some jobs make a lot of money, and some make very little. But I've been doing this for long enough. I've been self-employed all my working life. I've run my own business all my life. I know the value of my time. I know where to pitch my wares, and I am very fortunate to have the client base that I have here in London. But there's one thing, there's one absolutely guaranteed way, one way that I can guarantee to make money on every single job. I'll share it with you. Yeah, I'm afraid shooting video on a job is the biggest time sink you'll have. It's the biggest money pit. It's detrimental to your productivity by a spectacular factor, far, far more than any dithering customer wondering if they should have 2 shelves or 3, far, far more than any interior designer sending you the wrong set of plans, far, far more than anybody changing their mind about paint colors or insisting that you use some wackadoodle paint that takes 24 hours to dry. Shooting video will extend the length of a project by a factor of 2 to 3 times. I've talked with podcast co-host Andy Mack, Gosforth Handyman, of course, on YouTube, about this before, and we both agree 2 to 3 times is fairly standard for a project to overrun by if you're shooting video during that project. I've been very open about the sort of day rates that I charge, and feel free to go and check out the videos where I've discussed that and talked about that. But in reality, that day rate, if it's spread over 2 to 3 days instead, suddenly doesn't look quite so good. It's not so great. And to be honest, that's largely why you haven't been getting the good old-fashioned making videos that I used to do, for the simple reason that they are too expensive. It's just not practical to do them. There's also a time factor involved. You can't delay a project if a project is scheduled to only take a day or 2, and it then takes a week. You can't really delay a project by that length of time, because it's not just me involved in the project. There are many other people involved as well. And this means that I've had to have a bit of a think about how I conduct things on the channel. And what I've decided to do, I've decided to step back from, not totally away from, but step back from the Tuesday videos, the Tuesday tip type videos. The Tuesday slot started out as a 2-minute Tuesday tip, and then it's sort of grown into something else. Sometimes they've done really well. It's a good slot to have because I can react to things that have happened over a weekend, for example. The MDF formaldehyde story that broke, I think, wouldn't have been anything like as big a video for me if I'd have waited until the Friday. I think the story would have cooled down a lot by then. And just the video that I shot over the weekend about the hardwood offcut store, putting that out on Tuesday, has done that a world of good. 10,000 views on that. That's a pretty solid video. But in truth, there are only so many hours in the day and so many days in the week. You may have noticed I've been promoting the Patreon side of things fairly actively over the last few videos, and that's because when I put out the pricing, I did a pricing video for my Patreon supporters on the recent wardrobe job, and that brought in a lot of new Patreon supporters. Thank you very much, everybody. And the vast majority of them have stayed, and a double thank you for that. And I've decided to put a little bit more efforts and a bit more energy into doing a weekly video for my Patreon supporters. Sometimes it's a behind-the-scenes video like this one. The one that's coming up was actually a Patreon video. And sometimes it's just a chatty sort of week in the workshop type of vlog. But in order to do that, I've got to, I've got to step back from doing quite so many YouTube videos. I've been doing 2 videos a week for YouTube for the last 2 years, and I just need a bit of a breather, to be honest. So as I say, I'm not abandoning the Tuesday slot, but it will be less frequent, and when they come along, there'll be videos that are easier for me to shoot. Anyway, let's get on with this behind the scenes video. I'll pop back at the end of that, and I'll see you then. Hey everybody, I'm just shooting I'm doing a video about concealed hinges. By the time you see this, it should have been out on Friday. And I just thought I'd put the little GoPro action camera alike up just to show you how I go about shooting the cutaways when I do videos like this. You cut away to a detail shot and that sort of thing. So I'm just doing that now. And I just thought I'd give you a little bit of behind the scenes on this. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. I've just done the cutaways for the hinge mounting plates. I'm going to do the ones for the actually drilling the hinge, the holes for the hinge cups. And then we'll press on with doing the talking to camera bits and the mounting the thing on the thing and all that sort of good stuff. In this video, I wanted to change things up a little bit, so instead of doing the fairly predictable, short, snappy intro, then the jingle, then the piece to camera, I wanted to jump straight into it. So I'm doing a lot of cutaways to start with, because I want to go through the process of putting the hinge together onto a door very quickly with short, snappy little extra visuals. And because I want to revisit each of these cutaways later on in the main video and the main story, I'm shooting a couple of variations so I can revisit it without reusing the same footage. And with that cutaway done, with those cutaways finished, I've got to clear up, get everything tidied up out of the way before I can move on to the next one. And next up, we've got the drilling of the hinge fixing holes. Again, I'll try and do 2 variations of this so we can sort of make other use of it where possible. And I don't think I'm going to win any videographer of the Euro Awards for that particular overhead shot. And with that one done, while I'm here, I'm just going to shoot a quick cutaway of the hinge drill, the captive drill, the self-centering drill bit, because I know I'll need that later on. And next up, we're mounting the hinges onto the door, just screwing them on. And I'm switching to my phone for this because it focuses really, really close to, much closer than any of the other cameras I have. So that tends to work extremely well. It'll also fit into quite tight spaces without the super wide effect of the little action camera. Alrighty, carcass next. I need to mount the door onto the carcass, onto the hinge plates. And normally I'd just sort of put a clamp through the back of it. Because I've actually fixed a back onto this mock-up carcass, I've had to use my Festool clamps to try and hold the thing down, what normally would happen, because the carcass isn't actually fixed at all. As soon as you put a door on it, it'll fall over. So obviously that's best avoided. And yes, if you ever wonder why these doors and things fit first time every time, that's because I pre-adjust them before I actually do the actual shot. And next up, we've got a quick shot which didn't actually make it into the final edit. What I like to do when I fit these hinges, especially with the cruciform plates, where they're slotted, is to fix the top plate in the right position, but leave the bottom plate loose. That makes it much easier to fit the door, especially when you've got multiple hinges, because you can just offer it up, then jiggle the plate into the hinge, and then clip it on, and then screw the hinge plate onto the carcass. It makes life a lot easier during a tricky install. And now we're switching to the top hinge for the next cutaway, and I'm doing this with multiple cameras. I'm actually using my phone again right inside the cabinet, right inside the carcass, to get a really close-up detail shot of the actual clip where the hinge clips onto the mounting plate. So it gives us a really close shot. Unfortunately, because it's right in there, you can't really see what you're doing, and this was actually a little bit twisted. But I still used it a little bit later on. It works really well. Now this is where things started to go a bit wrong for me, unfortunately. I really messed up the first attempt at drilling out the hinge positions freehand, and yeah, it was not a happy moment when I realised what I'd done. And just to compound things, I did the same thing again in the second hole. Okay, I've just screwed up the hinge drilling process, so I'm hastily trying to fill them now. God, I haven't got another piece of MDF big enough to make a new door, so I've got to fill these and put the hinges on the other side. What a cock up. It's 4 o'clock on Thursday, and this video's due out noon tomorrow, and I'm out all morning. It's just turned into one of those days. God. So yes, I was as surprised as you were that I didn't have enough MDF to make a new door. It's just the way the offcuts work out. I've got loads of 22, but very little 18 in that sort of size, unfortunately. So it's a question of very carefully filling this and sanding it, priming it and painting it. We've got a little bit of a heat wave still in London at the moment, and it was very, very hot in the workshop, and I had a fan heater on the go to try and dry the paint as quickly as possible. But after that, it was a question of carefully constructing the shots so that the repairs didn't show too badly. I think I managed it okay. It's the kind of thing that almost everyone will pick up on, and round about now, I wish I really, really wasn't shooting in 4K. One thing I am doing these days that I've started doing recently is shooting the voiceovers live in the workshop. Then you get the same kind of ambience to the general recording. So with the hinges fitted onto the hinge plates, all that's left now is to use the adjustment in the hinges just to settle that door nicely within the frame. And then I could move on to doing the talking headshots, the piece to camera. Now let's start by saying there are many different hinge manufacturers. Let's throw out a handful. Grass, Hayfully, Hettich, Sugatsoni, and of course Blum. Blum, the ones that I use, not because they're best necessarily, but because they're fairly ubiquitous. I know that I can wander, certainly here in London, walk into any corner shop hardware store, and there are plenty of those around still. Okay, 6:30, so a long old day. I think I've just about got it done, got the thumbnail just shot, so now I'm going to spend tonight knocking this video into shape so I can get it out early in the morning. I never really like posting stuff on the day that it's due to go out, but might have to happen tomorrow. I don't know, see how I feel. But yeah, all the batteries are pretty much out, including this one and including mine, so get all the footage downloaded, get a shower, get something to eat, and then start editing. Happy times. So that was pretty much it. I got home and started editing by about 7 o'clock. I spent the whole evening editing this because there was a lot of, because of the initial sort of minute or two, very quickly going through the process of the overlay hinge. There was a lot of editing to do on that, a lot of many little bits of footage to put everything together. So it took quite a while. I didn't finish until about just before midnight. I had the final sort of final edit done and rendered. I slept on it overnight, had a look at it in the morning. Of course, I decided to change a couple of things, so did a re-render, and then while I was watching that, I realised I'd made a mistake. I'd used the wrong clip on one of the talking headpieces. So re-edited that, re-rendered it, got that uploaded to YouTube, and while that was uploading I did a trailer for Instagram as well, and got that scheduled, and then went about my business as usual on the Friday morning. The video seems to be going quite well, so I'm glad I put the effort in. But yeah, it was a bit of a scramble, this one. A lot more editing on this because of the because I wanted to do the sort of 1.5 to 2 minute super fast walkthrough of the overlay hinges very quickly in the first sort of talking head type pictures. There was lots of little bits of video to pull together, so it was a bit more convoluted and a little bit more complicated. And I wanted to do it that way, partly just to change things up a little bit on the YouTube channel, and partly because there are lots and lots of concealed hinge videos out there, but they all seem to concentrate on overlay hinges. Very few people talk about the inset hinges, so I wanted to concentrate really on the cranked hinges for an inset door, and go through that more slowly and in a bit more detail. Anyway, I hope you. So yeah, that's the kind of thing that you can expect from the Patreon type behind the scenes video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. I did a how I shoot my YouTube videos video way back in the first year, and obviously we've all moved on a little bit since then. Things have become a little bit more sophisticated, and hopefully the quality has improved as well. But that's really where we are. That's all I wanted to say on this subject. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.